Hi, everybody. I'm the bearded Deacon Dave,
And I am the beardless Lisa, layperson Lisa.
and welcome to the
De-
bearded Deacon Dave and beardless
beardless
layperson
layperson Lisa
Lisa show.
show.
Welcome back, everybody, from the Spiritual Mentors program. We are on to day 26 in prayer, and guess what we're going to do? We're going to talk about some of the things that the saints say, okay, about prayer. So
Which
we're
is
gonna-
really cool because Mary and St. Clair are right behind us.
Yes, isn't that nice? So let's
Yeah.
get a little wisdom from the saints, Lisa.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So St. Augustine has the famous quote that says, "You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you." So we have like this God-shaped hole in our heart that sometimes we try to fill with worldly things. And that's why we can never truly be satisfied or full of joy until we allow God to enter into that space.
So this is interesting. It says our hearts are restless until they rest in you. So there's like, okay, I need to chill, I need to be silent, I need to be present, and not be like running around like doing my prayer in the car, which I'm
Right.
guilty of that.
Right.
That is not. I'm not going to say it's
Well,
terrible.
no, that's okay. But
not terrible.
you need to still dedicate
Still
time
yes.
to quiet. But no, I'm all about like you can like pray in the car too, but like in addition, because that's part of praying unceasingly. But in addition to sitting with God.
Well, I agree, but most people, that will be all of their prayer time. And
Right,
and there is no quiet, silent time where you're actually resting in the Lord.
Right, and it's hard to develop that intimacy when you're always on the go praying to God.
Exactly. So St. Padre Pio, he said, in books we seek God, in prayer we find him. Prayer is the key which opens God's heart. Now, I find this is interesting because a lot of times I think both you and I would agree that if you are intentionally seeking to listen to God while reading a book or scripture, which we'll talk about in the next episode, then God, it becomes a prayer,
Yes.
right? Because you're listening to God and waiting for him to jump off the page, if you will.
Yes, but I think sometimes we are just seeking head knowledge when we're reading books,
Right.
rather than seeing how God is speaking to us through those pages or those words.
And I think that's a key change
Yes.
as we go through this particular month, right? Of when you read with intentionality to listen to God speak to you, then it transitions from just gaining knowledge to prayer.
Yes, and I think that, Padre Pio says that it opens that's the key that opens God's heart, but I would say that that's the key that opens our heart, because God's heart is always open.
Yeah, I didn't catch
to
that. You're
us.
right. Yeah, that's yeah, right. So like when we seek God in whatever form or fashion, then it does open his heart.
Yes.
That's kind of neat. So what did St. John Chrysostom say? I did that so you wouldn't have to say it.
I know how to say it. Prayer is the place of refuge to every worry, a foundation for cheerfulness, a source of constant happiness, a protection against sadness.
Very interesting. What are your thoughts on that, Lisa?
Well, God is the source of our joy and our strength and our hope and our peace. And when we keep our eyes focused on Jesus and not allow the distractions of the world and the circumstances of life take our gaze off of him, then no matter what's going on, we'll be firm in that foundation of prayer, which allows us to remain at peace despite the circumstances.
Yeah, I like the word you brought up, foundation, right? Prayer is the foundation to the spiritual life. And then I also like the fact that prayer is a refuge.
Yes.
So we can bring our concerns, our worries to God as well. And prayer becomes a place of refuge.
Yes, yes.
So St. Teresa of Lisieux said, for me, prayer is a burst from my heart. It is a simple glance thrown toward heaven, a cry of thanksgiving and love in times of trial as well. I like that. So prayer is a burst from the heart.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that one?
Well, that's what prayer is, a lifting up of our heart, our mind, our soul to God, and to just seek union with him, seek to do his will, seek to just be with him in all areas of our life, and to invite him in to the trials that she mentions.
I think that's interesting, Lisa, what you just said is it's a lifting up towards God. So often it can just be us like laying out a bunch of stuff to God.
Oh, like a list.
Right, but we're not actually lifting our hearts and ourselves up towards God, and just opening ourselves up to who He is, right? So that we might receive whatever it is He has for us.
It has to be a two-way communication. It can't just be, oh, help me with this, but just inviting Him into it and spending that time in silence to hear what He to hear His voice in our heart, to help for Him to have that space to communicate with us too.
Exactly. And then the Venerable Fulton Sheen said what, Lisa?
Prayer begins by talking to God, but it ends by listening to Him. In the face of absolute truth, silence is the soul's language.
I think
that's kind of what we just said.
I also think that Cardinal Seurat probably stole that.
Oh,
from Fulton
yeah, he
Sheen.
totally has a lot of Fulton Sheen-esque.
Right. So
in his
it may
book,
begin
yes.
by us talking to God, but ultimately us listening to Him is important, right? Because that absolute truth that only He can give us is found. I like this, in the silence of our soul's language.
Yes.
Right. And I think more and more that I spend time with God in silence, whether it's reading or just sitting there or whatever, He does speak to my soul. And a lot of times He convicts my heart about things, but then He continues to work with me on them and to journey with me on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's like a conversation with a friend, right? You're not just going to do all the talking. You're also going to, be quiet so that the other person can speak and have this shared time together. And that's just what prayer is too. It's just us spending time with God and having conversation and giving Him time to speak.
You never let me talk. You never let me talk. Why are you just looking at me like that for?
I'm letting you talk.
Oh, stop it. I am the bearded Deacon Dave.
I am the beardless layperson, Lisa.
See you next time.
Bye.
Let me talk.